Hey, peace, world. Thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind. Just trying to make sure something is that my stream is right, and I'm gonna jump into it. There we go. Um, dope. Let me just check one more. I didn't feel like going through the whole music intro and all of that. The Pay Me No Mind intro. Just gonna talk about the Shy. Season 3 is starting. Just wanted to make sure the live chat was good. Alright. That's that. Please all the usual stuff. Consider subscribing to the channel. If you like the way that anything is being discussed or talked about, reviewed, recap, any engagement would be appreciated 3,000%. And that's pretty much it. It's a holiday today. Those that are out there celebrating the holiday and whatnot, and have a reason to celebrate it, and gatherings, and making fond memories and all of that. Salute to everybody out there on that. And let's jump into it. So this the third season, welcome back, The CHI. Let me throw my disclaimer out there. I'm up and down with The CHI, but I really felt like at the close of season 2, I felt like it was finding its footing. And then, the stuff came out with Jason Mitchell, who plays Brandon, and obviously that forced the creator Lena Waithe to need to replace him. And where we left off last year, he was already a central part of the show, but then based on what was going on with this investigation, with him becoming the central person or figure in this investigation, that the female detective, and Cruz to a degree, with him agreeing to work with them, I felt like the show was getting ready to go in one direction. And now, like I said, with having to deal with Jason Mitchell's stuff, the sexual or inappropriate or misconduct, whatever it was, I felt like Lena Waithe and the team really had to scramble to see what the show was going to be and what direction they were going to go in, and automatically I was concerned with how did they do that, and everything that they built to, how do they regroup and it be seamless or at least logical. And I'm huge about, if I'm gonna give you 52 minutes of my time, I really expect for your content to make sense and to be responsible. The creators and the writers, your job is to create and write, and you should do that at a high level. And then my job is just to be a fan and to tune in. And I think some of these shows don't really do. Sometimes they fail, and sometimes it seems like they don't really care. And I'm quick to just move on. And I felt like, and I'll be honest, another thing here that I really struggle with, and they addressed it a little bit in this show, in this episode, phonem, is what the hell, the whole storyline with Ronnie killing Coogie. I just really haven't liked how they rocked with that. I really haven't liked how they've handled that, and it's kind of something I'm gonna continue to hold against the show. But I see here now, there's a moment in this episode in the season 3 premiere where Ronnie is still being held accountable by the neighborhood and by individuals in the neighborhood who really don't want to rock with him because they know what he did or what he caused. So let's jump into it. I think that's everything. Oh, another disclaimer to throw out there. Obviously with Kevin's mother and her now being married to Dre. I can't remember what Kevin's mom's name is real quick. Damn, I thought I just saw it. What's his mom's name? My bad. Oh, no, that's not her. Is it? Tila Abercrombie? Nina is Kevin's mom? I don't seem right. Let me double check that before I continue on. But with her marrying, yeah, Tila. I think is a very lovely sister, to be honest. But the whole storyline with her and Dre now getting married, you know, this really gets us into the whole LGBTQ community, and wherever you are with same-sex marriages, all of that. I'm not familiar with the terminology, but I think this is kind of obviously with Lena Waithe, you know, who lives her life and is what she is, you know, and reps what she reps. That's going to be a part of the show. I don't really have a position on it one way or the other. You know, we could get into a lot of stuff with that, but that's really I just don't see any benefit in it. So I won't ignore it completely, but I really don't have a lot of strong stances one way or the other. It's just a part of the show, and I'm following along as I go. So let's get into it, man. This is kind of interesting. This episode is interesting. Like I said, the main thing that most of us are looking for is to see how the show addresses all of the open items or the open issues from last year. What will be done with Brandon, and then what would be done with and Reg. Reg was gunned down at the end of last season, and then just with Brandon being gone, where would it go? What would happen with the investigation? A lot of things needed to be reset. So I'm looking at that from the beginning. How are they going to do that? And the show opens up with this wedding between, like I said, Keisha. And don't Keisha and Kevin, don't they look like real life brother and sister almost? They had me checking on that a couple minutes ago. I'm like, I haven't been watching this show for going on 3 years now, 3 seasons, and I didn't even realize they were real kin. But I think I think Kevin's name is Alex R. Hibbert, and then her name is Burgundy Baker, Keisha. So they just look they resemble each other quite a bit. That's some hell of a casting right there. I'm not sure if they did that on purpose or not. But they're in the they're having the wedding at some outside location, and of course Keisha is not that fond of Dre. Kevin is kind of just being a good son and being open-minded to it. He's obviously been working through the things that he's been working through the last couple of years. So this is probably his mother being happy. He probably just approaching it from that manner. But and Keisha is older. Who knows if she has to hear some stuff from classmates or what have you. Who knows? But so the wedding is going down. We see Darnell and I should have wrote down everybody's damn name. Emmett's mother. Emmett's parents, who aren't together anymore, they actually show up at the wedding together. So we're automatically wondering, you know, has it been some kind of reunion between those two? We saw last year where they were getting ready to have sex, and Emmett walked in on them. So we kind of weren't sure where Emmett's parents are, so on and so forth. Quick note too, if you made it to the end of this episode, now I also know why Keisha, the image that's behind me, now I also understand why Keisha is the centerpiece of that little array of characters right there. So that's interesting, but we'll get there in just a second. But so they go through with the wedding, and Dre wants to address the kids, and I thought she said something pretty thoughtful, like, hey, this is the world that we live in. Your mother chose me, and she said she's at least saying that I want to be involved in you guys' lives. I want to be there for you. I want to, I want to be accepted. She was like, I'm eager to be a part of this family. And so, I mean, I think that's a good start. She had some gifts for the two kids. I thought it was a unique idea with giving them some jewelry that had the latitude and longitude. I don't know what Dre does for a living either. I might have missed that. But she gives them the jewelry and says, you always know how to find home. Obviously, Keisha is on her way. I think she's on her way to... it's weird because they mentioned that she'd accepted a scholarship of some kind, but then Emmett was like, well, what school are you going to? And usually if you've accepted a scholarship, you kind of know what school you're going to. I don't know if that was a little mix-up on the writing or whatnot. Maybe Emmett just didn't know. I don't know. But anyway, she'll be leaving for school pretty soon. So one thing about Tila, she's at least raised her kids pretty well in terms of them being solid in school. Because if you go into Pepperdine, you had to do something pretty decent with the books. So it's dope that the kids are, that at least the kids are being, raised and have some, some work ethics towards their schooling and whatnot. But Dre gives them these gifts and a peace offering. Let's get off on a good foot and let's work it out. And she just said, here, the latitude and longitude is on there because wherever you guys go in life, you'll always be, you'll always know how to find your way back home. So I thought that was a good sign. The interesting thing for Kevin is that he goes immediately from a wedding and hops on the bus to go to the funeral of Brandon. And they don't tell us what. I'm hoping that's not it. I'm before I get to complaining, and running with the negative. I'm hoping that they come back and address what happened. I think that would be pretty. A real weakness for the writers, in my opinion, if we don't get any backstory on what happened to Brandon. And the easiest thing, I mean, maybe it leaked somehow that he was working for the police department and they took him out. Maybe that's what it is. But at least don't just clean it up like that. Don't just give us a closed casket. And that's another thing, is closed casket. That's probably because he couldn't be there, contractually and the way that he left. Of course, he couldn't just pop up to be in the casket. They did have his a big portrait of him up there in a wreath or whatever. And Sonya's song gives us a very, I thought it was like the real message of the show, especially with the violence that continues, the real life violence that continues in Chicago. And I think they used this eulogy for Brandon that was delivered by actress Sonya Song. I think they used this to really speak out on, the loss of life that's going on there on a regular basis, and kind of the real struggle of for young people and for black people to survive in Chicago. I mean, if you look, I think it was 2 weeks ago, they had the 18 shootings and or was it? Hell, it might have been 31 or something. But the violence there, the street violence, is just unbelievable. It's startling. I mean, to be honest, it's horrific. But I think they used this speech to really touch on it. And I thought Sonya's song, it'll be interesting to see if she continues in the rest of the show this year. But just a very sobering soliloquy or monologue, if you will. And she mentions that and you kind of get this message a couple of times in the show about like the sins of the father visiting the kids, and it's it's issues that haven't been resolved with the parents and the elders in the community that still have this younger generation being victims to gun violence and violence and everything in the city. And Sonya Sone's character says, you know, I didn't even have any based on how miserable and terrible my life was, and I had so many blind spots and issues and struggles in my life. I didn't even have any business making these two kids. And she comes back and says, you know, they never had a chance based on my luggage and my trauma. They never had a chance to live. And she said, you know, here it is. I'm burying two kids, you know, inside of a couple of years. And she's, you know, she's obviously and understandably really affected by this. And she just says, you know, Chicago doesn't love you. You know, nobody cares. And it's horrible here. And I think she closes it with something touching. She says, I don't have nothing left to give. No, I don't have nothing left to lose. And then she says, and I don't have anything else more to give. The city has taken everything from me. And the only thing that's good from this is that she got a chance to be loved unconditionally by her sons. Although her and Brandon did beef quite a bit at times. It happens. But she says, you know, I have nothing else to give. And she said, yeah, the only thing is that the silver lining here is that my sons came into my life and actually loved her unconditionally and whatnot. So I thought that was a very heartfelt moment for the show. And that's one thing, you know, the show, it handles comedy. It handles, you know, violence and all the street themes. It handles, you know, economics. Now we're getting into government with Otis Perry or Duda, with him running for mayor, the pizza man that's pulling all the strings on the streets. So and that's been my criticism of the shot, if I had one, is I felt like it's trying to be so many things, and it's challenging. And that's why I said at the beginning of this, when they came on to kind of getting the investigation going last season, it seemed like it kind of found its footing. And that might be the anchor or the centerpiece of the show. And now here we are. We're back to what the kids are doing. Emmett, what he's doing. Raggedy ass Ronnie, what he's trying to do. And now we're dealing with the parents, with Nina and Dre. It's just, like I said, it's trying to be a lot of things to a lot of different people. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's very challenging for the writers to deliver on that. But anyway, moving on from the funeral, Ronnie tries to show up. You know, Ronnie killed Coogie, who was the younger brother of Brandon. They don't want to let him inside, and this is kind of the first. Even though Ronnie had the moment last year, and we all kind of felt a little sad for him because we finally understand why he's so effed up when he had the reunion with his father. And he kind of like forgave himself, if you will, and we thought he was gonna turn things around, but now it's like he still has to deal with this stigma, this negative stigma of killing this young boy in the neighborhood, and so he's still being ostracized. And then Kevin shows up at the church, and that's the first time they've encountered each other for a while. So that was an interesting scene right there. But after the funeral, you know, Greavy has to get in Ronnie's ass and tell him to get up from around there. Nobody really wants to deal with him. And then Duda, Otis Perry shows up. And it'd be interesting because if he had something to do with Brandon's death, you know, here he is coming to do that. The scene with Bishop from Juice, when Bishop comes and talks to what was it, Raheem? That don't sound right. Anyway, it's kind of that same vibe. And he shows up to introduce himself, gives the mom his card and says, if you need anything, I'm here, you know, here's my number, contact me and I'll take care of you. And then he takes this weird, sinister photo and smiles at the camera, and I didn't kind of understand what was going on. You don't see it until a couple scenes later, where Dre is looking at the newspaper, and you hear that he's running for mayor. So that's what that awkward ass photo op was about. But which shows you kind of how crass he is as an individual. But mom isn't having it. She's like, get the F out of my face. What the hell would I possibly need you for? She's really bitter right now and letting everybody have it. And then Emmett comes over and who was working for Brandon, and she's like, well, what are you gonna do? And Emmett is like, I'm just trying to say sorry for your loss, and I just want you to know that I'm going to try to, and this is how we figure out what Emmett is on this year. He lets her know that he's going to try to save the business that Brandon has started. And it just seems like an uphill challenge for him, because while Emmett is very resourceful and he's a hustler and grinds, he doesn't have the cooking skills that we saw Brandon had. And it's going to be very difficult to get that in just 6 months or a few months after we last saw him and Brandon interacting. He was just being told what to do. He wasn't actually in there making, preparing the food and whatnot. And we get an idea of that because afterwards they get over to the wedding reception, which he's catering that, and the food is terrible. I think one of the ladies says that, Nina herself, she said, look, your food, because they ordered pizza. They get to the reception and Nina goes ahead and orders like 12 pizzas because everybody was complaining about the food. And that's where we get into a little bit of the comic relief. It's two older ladies there who approach Keisha, and they're interested to ask Keisha, how are you coming along with your mother's relationship and marrying this woman? And they get into whether she's a butch, a soft butch, or the one lady says masculine presenting is the note that I have. Like I said, man, I'm completely ignorant to that world. I don't have anybody in my immediate family, and it's just we're a military family, so we're kind of in between my dad's family and my mom's family, and in between those states. So I do have some lesbian family members and whatnot, but I'm not seeing any of it firsthand to be to even know how to talk about that stuff. But these two ladies kind of introduce, I think the writers use them to kind of discuss this issue. Now I will say I went to my wife's cousin's graduation from high school 5 or 6 years ago, and it was in the D.C. area, Prince George's County, and that was the first time with that large of a gathering of people. That was the first time where I saw like same-sex couples, female, on that level. It was at the University of Maryland, and I mentioned that on here before. And the young women walking around, masculine presenting, I guess. I'm talking about. I mean, the ratio was startling. I didn't know. Like I said, I don't give a damn about it. It don't matter to me one way or the other. But it had just the numbers had never been there, and I was like, damn, this is different. And I haven't been to any graduations in my city to see people like that. I've been to high school basketball games and whatnot. Anyway, I move on. So I thought it was a dope conversation. I thought it was also a good conversation for Emmett and Nina, Keisha and Kevin's mother. He's like he's struggling and he's trying to do the best that he can to salvage this. And that's how much of a hustler he is and an entrepreneur. He took on this wedding, and the one photographer cat mentions that the chicken is seasoned terribly and the food tastes nasty. And so Emmett sees the pizza being delivered, and tries to go over and talk to Nina, you know, who ordered pizza and what's going on. And she was like, look, don't even take this personal. She was like, you tried. You'll figure this out. You will get better at this. And she commended him for, on the same day that his friend was being buried, for him to even show up and do this. Which right there, you know, she should have known that it was going to be trash, that the food was going to be trash, because that's just, she was setting herself up for failure, really, or her moment, their wedding, for failure, because there was no way in hell. Anyway, but she says, you know, I'm gonna pay you because we had the deal, and I you know, I made the deal with you, so I'm gonna give you the money that I owe you, and you'll figure this out. And so I thought that was a really good moment, because you know, Emmett is trying to do the right thing. You know, he's not in the streets, in the game and whatnot, and he needs this kind of break. So it was dope that she was understanding of what he's trying to do and where he is with it. I thought that was a pretty dope moment. And then also here, Keisha and Emmett have a really, it's a lot of heartfelt moments in this show. You know, Keisha and Emmett were involved previously, and they used this discussion between these two to discuss some other things that's challenging young people in inner city Chicago and whatnot, or young black kids. And Keisha is apprehensive about leaving for school, even though it's like a year away, or at the end of the upcoming school year. And it's like survivor's remorse. You know, she has this opportunity to go out into the world and get away from Chicago. And that's the last thing that Brandon's mom said to Emmett was, if you were smart, you would get the F out of Dodge. You would put this city in your rear view mirror, because Chicago doesn't love you and it'll find a way to take you out. And so he had that discussion with the mom, and goes over and he's talking to Keisha, and he's like, well, I don't know why you want to stay here. You gonna sit here and screw one of these bum ass dudes in the city and get pregnant and end up working at CVS for the rest of your life. And this is what's weird about Keisha. And you can be book smart, you can be street smart, or you can, you know, you can be a dreamer, you can have goals. But here she is talking about, well, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with working at CVS for the rest of my life? And that's where the hustler and the entrepreneur in Emmett is like, are you crazy? Whatever school you going to, you need to put aside the fact that you're scared of living around people that you didn't grow up with. And Keisha mentions, you know, I don't want to go live with a bunch of white people that I don't know and be uncomfortable and blah blah blah. And it's like, do you want to do that, or do you want to run from bullets? You know, avoid stray bullets. You know, and avoid a lot of these getting entangled in something in the city that could cost you your life. And so they had this talk, and I think you know, he encourages her in the correct way, and I think she receives it. And you know, it's just like, I'm gonna lean into those challenges. I'm gonna lean into that opportunity to grow, and so on and so forth. So we leave that there. Also going on this time, you know, Jake and Papa, they're doing some drinking with Ebony, another little classmate of theirs, and you know, the younger people kind of get in some back room, and they're doing what young people do, sneaking some drinks and whatnot. And it's kind of, you know, the first time that we get to see all the younger people on the show. We get to see them, and Jake is tall as hell now, and Papa's grown some too. Kevin, you know, has even grown up quite a bit. So you see them together. I'm trying to see what other notes I had here. One thing that I thought was dope, I've talked about this on my podcast. It's always personal. I forgot about this, but when Emmett and Kevin, Emmett and Kevin were at the funeral, And Emmett calls. He says something like, "That nigga is gone" or something. Or, "The nigga is dead." And Kevin checked him and was like, "Nah, man, don't call Brandon that." You know, he didn't like that word. And I mentioned this before on another campaign of mine or soapbox topic of mine, is that I wonder, was anybody in the community ever, are those individuals still around that like question the usage of that word? And you get around a lot of buddies, and the N word is thrown around like, you know, it's showing up 5 and 10 times in 2.5 sentences. I mean, the use of it is just, it's just another word now. And it was just interesting to me that they took this moment to reiterate the fact that Brandon wasn't cool with that word, and that this is kind of a lesson that Kevin has taken from him. And it's just something I noticed. I'm not trying to change the world and whatnot. Everybody is where they are with the word. I just thought it was interesting that it's something that I had wondered about out loud. And then here it is playing out in this show where it is a younger person who's like, and I think Papa is on the same thing. You know, Papa is kind of half church and then half secular and whatnot. And he's always like the moral compass of what's going on with the kids and whatnot. So then I just mentioned that the conversation between Keisha and Emmett, the conversation between Emmett and Kevin. And then we get back to once the wedding reception wraps up and Emmett's going home. He's still with Tiff. Lovely Tiff. I like Tiff a lot. I forget her name too. What is her name? Hannah High Hall. It's a lovely sister too. I just had to throw that in there. But she has like her weed business going on, I guess. She's now like at home packaging up product and whatnot. And we see that her and Emmett are still trying to make it work out. We don't see their son though this episode, which was a little interesting. Maybe he was in the bed asleep. But Emmett just comes home and you know, he had a rough day. One of his first jobs, his first big job without his mentor and partner in Brandon. And they have a conversation, and Tiff is just like, you basically gonna have to figure this out and tough it out. If that's what you want to do, you're gonna have to figure out how to make it work. And so, you know, we check in with them too. It does seem like they're able to communicate a little bit better, and hopefully, you know, to give them a chance to maintain this relationship. But it's kind of interesting that that Keisha and Emmett are talking so much. And then interestingly, Keisha shows up at their apartment the next day because she comes to give some money at the reception. Nina told Emmett, you know, I'm gonna give you half of the money that I owe you today, and then I'll get the rest to you tomorrow. And Keisha is given that job to go give him the money. Now, the way that she counted it, when her mother gave her the money, I wasn't sure that that money was gonna make it to Emmett, or all of it was gonna make it to Emmett. But she did go over to the house to give him the rest of his money. And of course, now we have Tiff, a confrontation between Tiff and being the woman of the house. Keisha comes in, and Keisha is dressed to go out on a date, or, you know, to head out for the night. And she lets Tiff know, like, I don't want your man. Because Tiff is like, hey, you know, you can come to my house and do what you got to do and handle your business and whatnot. But she's like, I think it's, you know, I don't appreciate you coming over here dressed like a hoe or a prostitute or something, she said. And it was a weird outfit that, it was kind of a weird outfit that she had on. I ain't gonna lie. Because it was like sheer or something, and it was like a broad kind of top thing. And I think she had a jacket on, you know, a smaller jacket on. But I mean, the girl weighs like 90 pounds. But she had some heels on and whatnot. And this kind of foreshadows the conclusion of the episode. But so we see Tiff and Keisha, you know, have some words, and then Keisha goes to leave, and Emmett risks his life and his relationship and runs out behind Keisha to go talk to her on the stairs and reminds her that, hey, you know, remember my talk. And I think that's when he asked her, like, what school are you going to? And she says Pepperdine. And he's like, I never even heard of that. And that's kind of something that you're seeing is like, a lot of times young people in the inner cities, like, they don't even know this big world that's out there. And while Emmett didn't know about Pepperdine, he still looked at it as a great opportunity for Keisha to get outside of this world, even though he didn't know how vast it is and what's out there. But he's like, I'd be damned if I wouldn't embrace or accept quickly, you know, eagerly accept the opportunity to get out of here. And it's just weird, you know, he ran outside to go have that conversation with her and kind of further, risk having a blow up with Tiff, as they have a volatile or a delicate relationship anyway. So I thought it was, you know, like I said, he's risking the harmony in the home at that moment to go have additional words with Keisha in private. So that's that. Then the script goes to one thing that I didn't mention at the funeral was we see a new character in Luke James, R&B singer. He also was in the New Edition movie on BET. But he's watching, him and his female friend are watching Otis Perry, Duda, and you can tell that he's involved in the streets. And he's actually Jake's older brother. So in being that, he's also Reg's older brother. And he has his female friend. Anyway, we later find out he's just coming home from being locked up. And with him coming home, he wants to take... then we also find out that Duda has adopted Jake. I wasn't sure if Duda was behind Reg being gunned down or not. I kind of forget what happened with all of that, but it seems like he had something to do with it. And that's the thing. I didn't go back and watch the end of season 2. So maybe I'll try to check that out this week. But anyway, you can see that and his name is Trig. Luke James' character's name is Trig. He obviously has some moves and some game about him because he organizes a meeting between Duda and the other boss. He's been on, I think that cat had been on the show before. But they meet up to like talk about some business, and then they quickly realize that neither one of them called for the meeting. And as soon as they begin to wonder what the hell's going on and who got involved in their communications with one another, Trig shoots my man in the head and takes him out. And I don't know if Duda was responsible for the gunning, for Reg being dropped, but the other dude, it was his people that did it. So Trig is like, he walks over to Duda and is like, I've been on the street for a minute and I took care of this problem. How come you didn't know who took him out? And Duda is like, hey, I had my suspicions, but I was still trying to confirm it. And at his line or his responsibility or pay grade being at the very top of the organization, he was like, I had to make sure what was what before I do anything. And so you can see it's some tension between Duda and Trig. They have a history, they know of each other, and then Trig is like, I want my little brother back. And Duda is like, well, legally, I have custody of your brother right now, and that's that. So from that conversation, we see where Trig is getting set up. He's at an apartment with his girlfriend where he's going to set up his operations. I guess he plans to run some kind of card game, whatever his, whatever his earning operation is gonna be. They go talk about that, and then we meet his mother. And like I said earlier, with the whole conversation or the eulogy, once again we have the sins of the father, where it's this conversation between Trig and his mom, and he's like, "You ain't never did shit for me. You ain't never helped me out in any kind of way. And now you done gave up your kid for $5,000." She tells Trig that that's how much Duda gave her for her to go down to the courthouse and give up the custody and whatnot. And Trig is like, "Well, I'm gonna give you 10K. I'm gonna give you 10 bands to get him back. I need you to go down there and make that happen." And then before they part ways, she agrees to do it. But before they part ways, he actually, kids are gonna always try to find a way to love their parents. So love. You saw how Brandon and Laverne, they went back and forth in their relationship. I mentioned that earlier. But generally, parents and kids are always going to try to find a way to love their parents. And he struggles real quick to be gentle and to be affectionate to his mother. But then he turns around and gives her a hug. And that, again, she's a single parent mom. And what I was going to say earlier, well, I'll say that to the next point because I'm getting ready to get there. But anyway, he hugs her and is like, "Well, I can't believe you did that and gave your kid up, but, you out here struggling and trying to do the best you can with what you have. I'm back now and we'll try to make things right, but the first thing I need you to do is go get my brother back." So we'll see what happens with that. Then only two more things and I'm going to get on off of here. Then we see Ronnie at the bar with his two partners. And Ronnie is, I told you, man, until last year, until the final episode, the finale last year, it's been hard for me to get into this show because of Ronnie's character, man. And it's taken so long. It took so long for them to dig into the background of why this dude is so in a sunken place from a completely different reason from racism and whatnot. He's jacked up because his time in the army or in the armed forces. I think he served and had some PTSD. And then he's just been running from stuff his whole life. And then with killing Coogie and then making, everybody in the neighborhood finding out about it. And then his son, Jason, being killed. Jason was kind of the only person that gave him some purpose and whatnot. And so he's sitting here at the bar drinking again. He had tried to stop drinking previously, understanding that that's something that he struggles with. And when he can't even give himself a chance to function and whatnot. But here he is drinking and the bartender comes over and he's like, "Do you need another drink?" And they go back and forth. He's like, "You've had too much." And then his two friends just tell him, they use that conversation between him and his two buddies to kind of give us a snapshot of what's going on with Ronnie. And they tell him, you don't have a lot of friends out here. You don't have a lot of people who who hold you with a high regard right now. You know why. And they're just like, you're just going to have to work on that day by day. You're going to have to atone or make amends for that. You don't have control over when everybody is going to, be understanding or be empathetic or deal with you. You just got to figure out a way to kind of keep your head down, work hard, and maybe over time, you'll be accepted again. And I guess that's how they're going to handle it. I told you I wasn't a fan last year when the whole case went down the way that it did and the lawyer that he got and whatnot. And that's been that's been a sore spot with me and the show. That's just how I feel about it. But at least then from that last year, they did take the time to go back and show us why Ronnie is all messed up. And again, it's the sins of his father. All right, so then getting into this conclusion. Keisha in this outfit with the short shorts and this bra-like top, sheer top that she's running around in. It's interesting that she's traveling, you know, through the city, you know, and getting on the bus looking like this. And she's at the bus stop. She's sending text messages to whoever she's going to hang out with or kick it with that night. Some male, Nuck, I think his name was on the text message, was Nuck. And they go back and forth about, you know, I'm coming to you. And he said, well, I could have came and got you or something, so on and so forth. And it's dark outside. She's at this bus stop. And then Ronnie has left the bar. And when he gets outside, he pulls out his pint bottle or whatever, E&J or something. And he's drinking again. This is how he got in trouble with Coogie, because he had been drinking. When he killed Coogie accidentally. And so he's walking down the street and passes, him and Keisha have this intersection, and she looks up at him, and I think she knows who he is from the situation with Kevin being a witness to him murdering or killing Coogie. And so when they cross paths, you know, they make eye contact and whatnot, and she like gasps, you know, takes that deep breath like, oh, that's dude. And then the bus is heading to pick her up, and it turns the corner, and the bus driver stops the bus to let the passenger on, and when he opens the door, Keisha's no longer sitting on the bench. There's like a jean jacket that's left behind on the ground, underneath the bench on the ground. And then they also go and show her cell phone is there, and the screen has been cracked to indicate that there's been some kind of struggle. Obviously, Ronnie is the last man that we saw with Keisha. So again, the family, like he's been the last 2 seasons, he's been having this adversarial relationship with Kevin, and now here it is. Maybe something has happened with him and Keisha. Obviously, are we being led to believe that something happened with them between Ronnie and Keisha, or did another person come and snatch up Keisha? We don't know. I'm probably of the latter, that is something going on. I don't know if it's really sex trafficking, if they're going down that road. I don't know where they're going with that storyline. But like I said, now we see that's why Keisha is the central figure here in the image behind me, because she may be, we don't know, but something is going on with her major this season. And now what I was gonna say was, if you've been checking out some of the videos, I touched on what was going on, the beef that's touched off between Chicago rapper and now activist No Name and J. Cole. And somebody on YouTube, somebody made a comment on one of the second video that I talked about, when No Name made her response record to J. Cole's first record. Somebody came on the video and commented that 75,000 black women or black females are missing. And it's interesting, you know, and No Name mentioned something. We also saw this situation, I don't know if that was North Carolina, but the Olawatoyan, I should have pulled this up. Dianu, I'm murdering the name, I apologize. But the girl that was, the younger girl who was killed by this individual, this man down there during the protest. and it was an older woman who was also killed, like a elderly lady who was killed, and then this 18-year-old, I believe. But that was what one of part of No Name's issues with J. Cole is that no one, these rappers who talk about the struggles and the plight of black people and younger black people, the people who are profiting the most off of talking about our issues, they aren't talking about all of our issues. And they're not talking about the issues that are key to No Name. And but one of those issues was the fact that black girls are showing up. They don't get reported nationally. There's no national coverage of it. The resources really and the time isn't spent to investigate what's going on, what's happening. And, like I said, this person commented and made it and made the statement that, it's 75,000 young women missing. And my comment is, in general, to her comment was, we don't really deal with a lot of our own shit. We really don't. And we got a lot. I've talked about this with a lot of the music that I review. It's a lot of brothers making money talking about street violence, murder, dope. Selling dope to fiends. It's a lot of dudes talking that right now. Some of the dudes that I like a lot. And I would just say, we seem to be a community where we're willing to accept. I'm preaching a little bit, but we're willing to accept large numbers of the community being victimized and enslaved to, to drugs. But we're willing to sacrifice those people so that a couple of people can make it. And that's what one thing when I listen to a lot of the music that I'm hearing and the stuff that I'm reviewing, it's a lot of dudes saying that they hustled to be able to buy foreign cars, foreign designer gear, designer sneakers, and the lives of a third of this neighborhood, a third of my community. And then on the other hand of that, the violence surrounding the drug trade and all of that, I'm gonna do all of that so I can go and have a foreign car. And so anyway, to that person, to that the YouTube account was like Black Goddess, I think. I hear you. I really do. I'm not tone deaf, and that's not a blind spot for me. But like I said, unfortunately, if you look at the things that make money in this community, if you look at the art that we put out there, whether it be movies, TV shows, videos, albums, the stuff that's glorified and you see on Instagram and whatnot, like I said, we appear to be a community that's willing to overlook quite a bit just so certain people can advance their lives, and take care of their family and generate, I don't know if I say wealth, but to make it out of the hood. And so it looks like that's what we're going to be dealing with over, the next few episodes or whatnot. I would imagine maybe this brings the investigation back to, maybe this is how the investigation becomes one of the major stories that we're watching in these episodes is, looking into what happened to Keisha. I think that's it. Because the rest of the show, was like joy and happiness. They had to sleep over with the kids. Jake was talking about he had sex with the young girl. That's another thing that makes me uncomfortable about the Chi. Like, if you think about it, in season 1 we saw Emmett and Keisha having sex, and pretty graphically portrayed. The scene was pretty graphic. But here it is, like we were looking at a naked, she's like what, 16 years old, 16, 17 years old. Like, why did we have to see her naked? And I'm not trying to be the old prude, holier than thou. But again, man, we just don't seem to be conscientious or cognizant of certain things when we put our stories out there and our messaging, and it's a little reckless to me. And like I said, the whole situation with Coogie being shot and killed, and the way that they made, like, Ronnie has still not. I thought it was weird that we would allow Ronnie to go on with his life and figure out what's going on with his life and get right. But in the meantime, you put this 16-year-old boy and you ended his life. And that's real talk. That's why I've been struggling with the CHI. Like, we didn't seem to be too concerned as a community at the loss. And I know it's a fictional character, but this world that you've built, it's like, damn, that's how we're gonna resolve that story. Is Ronnie, drunk ass, bum ass Ronnie, gets to go off and live the rest of his life and get the time to figure out what kind of person he is. I really struggle with that, to be honest with you. I know my cousin would be like, man, you sounding kind of moist right now. But seriously, man, I really, if this is a program that people are gonna sit up and watch every week, and you know how people get attached to shows and get attached to characters and whatnot, and for real, I just thought that was a little reckless how they handled, like I said, Ronnie, who hasn't figured it out in some 38, 40 years or whatever. Here it is, he kills the teenager, and then you go and get a lawyer who fights for him to be freed. And I don't know, man. It ain't sit right with me. I'm just being honest. But it'll be interesting to see what happened to Keisha. And it was a sudden change, to go from, they showed the honeymoon or whatever, Dre and Nina, they went and got a room at a really nice hotel and whatnot. And they showed them their first night as a married couple, and obviously they go to consummate the marriage and whatnot, and whatever. Again, fine, but and then there's the different humor throughout the show, and then it ends with, here's the real shit that we're gonna deal with this season. So I thought that was an interesting transition, and I didn't see what the trailer or the tease is for next week, so I have no idea. I might check it out later on today or something, but that's where we are. So I just took an hour. I could have did a little 10 or 12 minute recap video, but that's extra work. I can just go live and kind of talk through it. Somebody been on here rocking with me the entire time. Appreciate you checking in. You might not have nothing to do today on this on Father's Day. You didn't have any questions or bring up anything about the CHI. Maybe you don't watch the show, but I'm getting ready to go eat with my father-in-law and mother-in-law, and we'll see what happens next on episode 2 of season 3, and that's next. I don't know if the CHI is one that you can watch like after midnight on Saturday, or Sunday morning. You can just stream it versus waiting for it to air. I'm really not sure how they're doing it this year. I know the premiere, you could have streamed it a couple of days ago before it shows. I know also I'm still watching Billions. To be honest with you, I just don't know what the hell. I don't know what the hell they're doing on Billions. Some of it is entertaining. I mean, it's pretty entertaining. It's one of my favorite shows. But whereas I mentioned earlier, like, I like my shows to have some logic. I like for the script to be tight and, a logical flow of everything. They do that in spades on Billions. And but like I said, when they get to talking about acquisitions and mergers and whatever the hell Mason and not Mason, Taylor and Wendy are doing. You see, and then I don't know if Axe does Axe have a thing for Wendy, and he's bitter because Wendy is sleeping with the artist who he's commissioned. But the dope thing in Billions is like now with only 2 or 3 episodes left, Billions is getting ready to get in his bag and do the reveal that I do understand. And Mike Prince, who's played by Corey Stoll, he's finally pissed off Axe because whatever Wendy and Taylor were doing with this, I can't remember what this like sub company that they have, Mason some carbon. Basically, they've created this green company, and it's some company that they've invested in, or some kind of new like carbon-free power source or something. And come to find out, Prince, Axe's rival, he's the other money man behind the company. And now he ran some kind of game on Taylor and Wendy, and the company, they found out that the company was using some conflict minerals from Africa, aluminum or something. And so now they want to do something to avoid but they want to go and let me think how I was trying to explain the shit. Anyway, normally he's not gonna abandon them. So if you'll leave your money in there, I'll leave my money in there, and we'll figure this out. We'll resource the aluminum, and we'll get the company back online, and we'll continue doing this good business and responsible business. We'll do that. And when Taylor goes back and informs Axe about what's happened, Axe loses it. And he's like, you got played, you didn't know you got played, and now I got to get involved and roll my sleeves up. And so I expect things in Billions to really pick up over the next 2 or 3 episodes. Also tonight, before I get off of here, Yellowstone is back on tonight. The debut, I think this is season 3 of Yellowstone, is tonight. And I'm excited about that one. It looks like another dude is coming in to try to take away some land from Yellowstone. Kevin Costner's his family, and the dude wants to set up like an airport or something. And again, it's going to be someone that's telling Kevin Costner him and his family have way too much property or land, and people want to use it for commerce versus what he's doing with it. So I'm excited to see what happens in Yellowstone. And that's it, man. Let me get on out of here. Like I said, I hope you have a phenomenal day. Enjoy your family, your loved ones, etc., etc. Make some awesome memories, and enjoy that time together. Let me get on out of here. This is Pay Me No Mind. Like I always end this, man. Remember that you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Peace.